Anna wiped her hands on her apron as the diner buzzed softly around her. She noticed the tired man at the corner table struggling to pay for his meal. His card declined with a beep that echoed too loudly in the quiet room. Without hesitation, Anna reached into her own pocket and quietly slid her card across the counter to the cashier, covering the cost without a word. The man looked up, surprised, eyes wide but shy, as if he couldn't believe such kindness existed. She simply smiled gently, avoiding his gaze, and turned back to wiping tables. No applause, no thanks, just a small act done because it was the right thing to do. Little did Anna know, that simple gesture would set a chain of events into motion that would change her life forever. Meanwhile, across town, a powerful CEO was about to hear about the waitress who had quietly paid for a stranger's meal. Ethan Wolf, CEO of Wolf Enterprises, was a man who rarely let emotion touch his guarded heart, but when his assistant mentioned the story of the waitress who had paid for a stranger's meal, something stirred inside him. He didn't know the woman, yet he felt an inexplicable pull to find her. In the glossy high-rises and boardroom meetings, his mind wandered back to that quiet act of kindness. For years, Ethan had surrounded himself with wealth and power, but what he craved was something real, something genuine. He instructed his assistant to find out everything about the waitress named Anna. A name, a place, a chance to see if kindness could truly exist beyond his business empire. Little did he know, fate was about to bring their worlds crashing together. Ethan's assistant dug through countless records, scanning every diner, cafe, and restaurant in the city for a waitress named Anna. Meanwhile, Anna returned to her routine, unaware that a man from the top of the corporate ladder was already looking for her. She spent her days juggling 2 jobs, dreams of opening her own bakery tucked quietly in the back of her mind. The diner was her stage and sanctuary, the place where she could hide behind smiles and keep her fears at bay. But every time she helped someone, even a stranger, she felt a small flicker of hope inside her chest. Unbeknownst to her, Ethan's search was relentless, driven by something deeper than curiosity or business. The man who had everything wanted one thing he never knew. He needed a heart brave enough to give without expecting anything back. And the next time they met, nothing would be the same. One rainy evening, Anna rushed into the diner, soaked from head to toe, trying to shake off the cold. Ethan sat in the corner, his sharp suit slightly damp but his posture impeccable, watching her with quiet interest. She didn't recognize him at first, just another customer amidst the evening rush. When their eyes met briefly, something shifted in the air, a silent acknowledgement neither fully understood. He ordered black coffee and waited patiently, eyes never leaving her as she moved gracefully between tables. Anna felt an unfamiliar warmth in her chest, but she pushed it aside, focusing on work. Little did she know, this was the start of a story neither of them could forget. After the diner closed, Ethan approached Anna, his voice low but steady. "I heard about what you did, the kindness you showed a stranger," he said, his gaze intense yet gentle. Anna flushed, unsure how to respond. "It was nothing, just something anyone would do." He smiled softly. "Not everyone would. That's why I wanted to meet you." For a moment, words escaped her, and she simply nodded, her heart pounding in a way she hadn't felt in years. They talked for a while, about hopes, dreams, and the struggles that shaped them. And as the night wore on, the distance between their worlds began to fade. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. The next day, Ethan left a small package at the diner, a beautiful box, tied with a simple ribbon. Inside was a leather-bound journal with Anna's name, embossed on the cover. A note accompanied it, "For your dreams, and the stories you've yet to write." Anna was stunned, touched beyond words, and unsure how to thank a man she barely knew. She opened the journal that night, tracing her fingers over the blank pages, imagining all the possibilities. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, her life could be more than just surviving. And somewhere across the city, Ethan smiled, knowing he had just planted a seed that would grow into something neither of them expected. Anna's world was not without shadows. A former boss who had taken advantage of her absence threatened to resurface. She worried her past mistakes would drag her back into a life she desperately wanted to leave behind. Ethan, sensing her fear, offered his unwavering support, but Anna was hesitant to accept help. "I don't want to be a charity case," she said firmly, holding her ground. He respected her strength, promising only to stand beside her, never in front. Together, they began to face the demons that lurked quietly beneath the surface. And in that process, their bond deepened, built on trust and courage. Neither knew the road ahead would test them in ways they never imagined. One clear evening, Ethan took Anna to a rooftop garden far above the city's noise. The stars were brilliant, scattered across the sky like diamonds. They sat in comfortable silence, sharing stories without words, connected by something neither could explain. Anna felt safe, a feeling so rare it almost overwhelmed her. Ethan, too, let his guard down, revealing pieces of himself only the night could hold. Under the vast sky, their hearts spoke louder than any conversation could. and in that moment, they knew their lives were intertwined in ways neither had expected. The city lights below were small compared to the light they found in each other. Ethan surprised Anna with an invitation, not just to dinner, but to join his foundation. He wanted her to help shape programs that would empower women like her, hopeful, deserving. Anna hesitated, unsure if she was ready to step into a world so far from her own. But Ethan's faith in her was unwavering, and slowly, she began to believe in herself too. Together, they envisioned a future built on giving back and lifting others up. Their partnership was more than business, it was a promise to heal, to grow, and to love. And as they worked side by side, their hearts grew closer, entwined by shared purpose and quiet devotion. The once shy waitress was becoming a woman of strength and influence. Anna stood before a group of women at a local community center, her voice steady but her hands slightly trembling. She shared her story, not the whole truth, but enough to inspire hope. The room filled with nods and smiles, women who saw themselves in her courage. Ethan watched proudly from the back, his heart swelling with admiration. This was more than he had ever hoped, for watching her blossom into the light she deserved. Afterward, Anna smiled at him, a silent thank you passing between them. They had both taken the first step toward a future neither could have imagined, alone, and as the sun set outside, a new chapter quietly began. As Anna's confidence grew, so did the whispers around her. People began noticing the CEO who kept showing up. Some coworkers admired it, others rolled their eyes, and a few grew jealous of her sudden connection to someone so powerful. Anna tried to ignore it, but the feeling of being watched started creeping into her quiet spaces. One night after closing, a coworker joked, "Careful, Anna, princes like him don't marry girls like us." She laughed softly but cried when she got home, the old doubts resurfacing like wounds she thought had healed. Ethan noticed her pulling back and asked gently, "Is it me, or is something weighing on you?" She shook her head but couldn't meet his eyes. In truth, she was afraid of how much she needed him because, if he ever left, she didn't know if she'd survive it. A gossip site posted blurry photos of Ethan and Anna together, walking, smiling. The headline read, "Mystery Waitress or New Love. Billionaire CEO linked to unknown woman." The comments were cruel, dissecting Anna's looks, her past, and even her worth. Anna saw it during a break at the diner and nearly collapsed in the stockroom, shaking with shame. Ethan arrived that evening, fury in his eyes, already drafting legal action. But Anna stopped him. "No, I don't want to hide, but I don't want you to fight my battles either." He paused, searching her eyes, then said, "Then we fight them together, on your terms." And from that moment, their love grew fiercer, because it was no longer just private, it was brave. A thunderstorm swept through the city, trapping Anna and Ethan inside her small apartment. They lit candles, made tea, and played music on her old radio. But inside Anna, fear was bubbling like the rain against the windows. "I'm not used to having someone stay," she whispered, her fingers clutching the cup. Ethan reached for her hand gently. "Then let me stay until you're ready for me to go." Tears filled her eyes, not from pain, but from the kindness she didn't think she deserved. And when the storm outside softened, she leaned into his arms, choosing, the first time, not to be alone. That night, they didn't cross any lines. They simply held on through the rain. Anna received a letter from her estranged father, a man who had left when she was 13. He had seen her on the news, read about her, and suddenly wanted to catch up. Anger warred with sorrow inside her. How dare he come back now, when she'd finally found peace? Ethan sat beside her quietly as she read the letter, his presence steady and silent. "You don't have to reply," he said. "You owe nothing to anyone who abandoned you." Anna nodded, unsure if closure was possible, or if some wounds were better left closed. But that night, she burned the letter in a small fire pit outside the cafe. She didn't do it in anger, she did it to finally let go. At a charity event, hosted by Ethan's company, Anna wore a simple, elegant black dress. She felt confident till one of Ethan's business rivals made an inappropriate comment and tried to touch her waist. Before Anna could react, Ethan stepped between them, his voice ice cold. "Touch her again, and you'll lose more than a deal." The man laughed nervously and walked away, but Anna's hands were trembling. Later that night, she pulled Ethan aside. "I don't want to be seen as weak or needing protection." He cupped her face. "You're not weak, but I will always defend what matters to me." She nodded slowly, her walls trembling. And when he kissed her that night, it was not about passionate, it was about respect. Donna had always dreamed of owning a bakery, not for profit, but for comfort, warmth, and stories shared over coffee. One morning, Ethan brought her to a quiet street and showed her a small shop with for lease in the window. Her heart raced as she peeked inside wooden shelves, soft light, space for tables and books. "I want to invest in your dream," he said simply. Tears filled her eyes. "Not because you love me, because you believe in me." He nodded. "Exactly that." That afternoon, she signed her name on the lease, her name, not his. And for the first time, her dream wasn't distant, it was real. One evening, Ethan's ex-fiancée arrived uninvited, at an event, stunning in red and full of venomous charm. She whispered into Anna's ear, "You're his charity case." Let's not pretend it's more than that. Anna didn't respond, not out of weakness, but because she knew silence was sometimes the sharpest blade. But later, Ethan noticed her quietness, and asked gently, "What did she say to you?" Anna told him the truth, voice steady. "But I don't need her to believe in us. I only need you to." Ethan kissed her hand in front of everyone and said, "Then let her watch us win." And in that moment, Anna realized, love didn't need to be defended, it only needed to be lived. Photos were leaked, intimate photos of Ethan and Anna from their private vacation. The media erupted, calling her unprofessional, a distraction, even a liability to his company. Board members urged Ethan to step back publicly from their relationship to protect his image. He refused, calmly but firmly. "If loving her ruins my image, then maybe I built the wrong one." Anna was terrified, but she stood by his side, refusing to disappear to make others more comfortable. They held a small press conference, not to apologize but to set the record straight. "She's not just a waitress," Ethan said. "She's the reason I found myself again." And in that bold moment, the world began to see her differently. Despite their strength, the pressure built. And one evening, they had their first real fight. Anna felt overwhelmed, accused Ethan of not understanding the chaos he had pulled her into. He in turn said he was doing everything he could, and that sometimes her fear pushed him away. They said things they didn't mean, sharp, painful, words that echoed in the silence afterward. Anna walked away that night, needing space, needing air. Ethan sat in the dark of his penthouse, realizing that love wasn't always enough if fear kept leading the way. Days passed with no calls, no messages, just two hearts aching quietly, and both of them knew they had a choice to make. On a rainy morning, Anna stood inside her little bakery in progress, brushing dust from the window. Ethan stood outside, soaked, holding coffee in a wrapped package. She opened the door, unsure what to say, but he simply handed her the gift. Inside was the journal he gave her weeks ago now, filled with pages of her dreams, her doubts, her healing. "I read your silence," he said. "Now I want to listen to your words." She took his hand slowly, fingers trembling. "I don't want perfect. I want real. I want hard. I want you." He smiled for the first time in days. "Then let's begin again." And under the soft hum of rain, they did. Anna woke in Ethan's arms, the morning sun soft against her skin through the bakery window. They had talked through the night, no promises, no grand plans, just raw honesty, layer by layer. The city buzzed outside, but inside, everything was still and safe. For the first time, Anna wasn't afraid of losing him because they had already been broken and chosen to stay. He helped her rearrange the shelves, sweeping floors with rolled-up sleeves and messy hair. They laughed as flour dusted his suit pants, and she smeared icing on his cheek. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And real, they both realized, was the only kind of love they ever wanted again. The bakery opened on a quiet Sunday with a long line, waiting outside and nervous excitement inside. Anna wore a simple white apron, her hair tied back, her hands steady despite the nerves. Ethan stayed in the background, letting her shine, refusing interviews and declining press. She served coffee, warm bread, and laughter. Her heart poured into every corner of the little space. Children brought drawings for the wall, an elderly couple kissed at the corner table, and people stayed longer than they meant to. When the day ended, Anna stood in the doorway, eyes filled with tears and flour. Ethan wrapped an arm around her and whispered, "You built this." She nodded, smiling softly. "And I built it for everyone who was ever overlooked." Despite the joy, something tugged at Anna's heart, quiet, persistent, a question left unanswered. She had never returned to the diner since starting the bakery, never said goodbye. One evening, she walked in during the slow hour, apron still dusted with sugar. Her former coworkers greeted her with surprise and warmth, but also distance. She sat alone at her old corner booth, remembering the years she spent hiding behind kindness. One of the cooks brought her coffee, and another said quietly, "You never needed to disappear to matter, Anna." She left a note on the table. "Thank you for seeing me before anyone else did." And as she stepped into the night, she finally felt complete. Ethan didn't get down on one knee or offer a diamond. Instead, he handed Anna a ring made from silver and engraved with one word: home. They were standing in the bakery kitchen. After a long day, surrounded by crumbs and cooling pies, he said, "I don't need a moment, I just need a lifetime." She took the ring slowly, eyes wide with emotion, and whispered, "Yes, because home isn't a place, it's you." They kissed, flower and all, under the dim lights and smell of vanilla. No photographers, no flash, just two souls, finally safe in each other. And in that moment, Anna knew she had found everything she never dared to wish for. One day, the man she once helped, the stranger with the decline card, walked into the bakery. He was cleaner now, more stable, carrying a small bouquet of flowers. Anna recognized him immediately, and he smiled with tears in his eyes. "I got back on my feet," he said. "Because of that one meal. You gave me dignity when I had none." He handed her an envelope, a donation to her bakery's community fund. She hugged him tightly, overwhelmed by the full-circle beauty of the moment. Ethan watched from the back, eyes misty, his faith in her kindness deepening. And in that moment, Anna realized Kindness doesn't just echo, it transforms. Ethan's board began pressing. Harder investors felt his focus on love and charity was distracting from profits. One member suggested stepping down temporarily to refocus. Ethan.com, but fierce, said, "If integrity is a distraction, then I've been building the wrong empire." He sold a portion of the company, keeping control, and invested the rest into their foundation. The media painted it as reckless, but Anna saw it as the bravest thing he'd ever done. He didn't need to prove anything anymore, not to the world, and not to her. They weren't trying to win, they were trying to build something worth having, and that kind of success couldn't be measured in shares. Anna started writing again, stories, memories, even poems she once hid in drawers. She left one on Ethan's pillow, a letter about the first time she noticed him truly seeing her. He replied with his own, a letter about the first time her voice made him believe in tomorrow. Soon it became a tradition, silent letters, tucked into aprons and pockets and between pages. They didn't always say "I love you" sometimes. They said "I see you," or "I'm trying," or "Thank you for yesterday." In a world obsessed with noise, they had found magic in the quiet, and through those letters, their love deepened, not louder, but truer. Because real love writes itself slowly, one word at a time. Anna collapsed one morning in the kitchen, dizzy and pale. Panic set in quickly. Ethan rushed her to the hospital, fearing the worst. Doctors found nothing serious, just exhaustion and malnourishment from overwork. Ethan sat beside her bed all night, guilt clouding his eyes. "You can't carry everything alone," he whispered. "Let me hold some of it too." She squeezed his hand, tears spilling quietly. "I'm just afraid of slowing down, afraid it'll all disappear." He leaned in close. "Even if we lose everything, we won't lose us." And in that promise, she finally exhaled. Winter arrived softly, the bakery windows fogging with breath and joy. Children pressed their noses to the glass, laughing at sugar cookies and candy canes. Anna and Ethan spent the day giving out free pastries to anyone who needed warmth. Outside, snow began to fall, there first as a couple, as business partners, as a family. He held her hand tightly as they stood beneath the snowfall, wrapped in scarves and love. "Do you ever miss the life you had?" she asked quietly. Ethan shook his head. "No, because I never lived before you." And as snow dusted their hair, they kissed like it was always meant to be this way. A new waitress started at the bakery. Young and overwhelmed by the world, Anna noticed immediately, pulled her aside, and gave her the same quiet encouragement she once needed. She paid for the girls' lunch the next day without a word, just a gentle smile. Ethan watched from the corner, remembering the moment that started everything. He approached, wrapped his arms around Anna, and whispered, "You're still doing it." "Doing what?" she asked, leaning into him. "Changing lives with silence." And as the day faded to night, they held each other close, knowing this wasn't the end, but a beginning that would never stop giving. One evening, Anna found herself standing at the empty bakery window, long after closing, staring at the street lamp flickering outside. Ethan walked in quietly, setting his briefcase down, noticing the way her shoulders were curved inwards. "I'm scared," she whispered, not turning around. "Things are good, and that's when life usually takes something away from me." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin gently on her shoulder. "You don't have to wait for pain anymore, Anna. You can choose peace now." Her fingers clutched his tighter, as if afraid he'd vanish. I don't know how to stop bracing for impact." And Ethan answered, "Then we'll learn together how to live when love stays." Ethan and Anna launched a project. Together, the Quiet Kindness Fund, helping waitresses, servers, and single parents in financial distress. They shared their story publicly, but this time, on their own terms, not as a spectacle, but as a mission. Donations flooded in, but so did letters, thousands of them from people who had once been helped by a stranger. Anna cried reading them, realizing that what she thought was a small life had always been larger than she knew. Ethan organized a gala, not in her honor, but to celebrate people like her, quiet heroes of everyday streets. She stood on stage, trembling, but spoke with clear, grounded grace. "I'm not special," she said. "I'm just proof that kindness is never wasted." And the room stood in silence, not for applause but for reverence. As their life grew fuller, Ethan began noticing Anna watching children in the park through the bakery window. She didn't say it out loud, but he could feel the longing inside her, soft, uncertain, maybe even unspoken. One night, while they sat under string lights, on the bakery's patio, she finally said it. "Do you ever think about a family?" Ethan reached across the table, his voice steady. "Every day. But I wanted to wait until you were ready to dream that big." Anna's lips trembled. "I still feel like I'm becoming someone new, but I think I want to become her with you." He didn't promise timelines or plans, only presence. "Then we grow into it," he said. And that night, they planted not just seeds of love but of something even deeper. A few weeks later, Anna collapsed again, this time not from exhaustion. Doctors confirmed what neither of them expected but both had quietly hoped for. She was pregnant. Her first reaction was tears, not from fear, but disbelief that her body could carry something so precious. Ethan sat beside her on the clinic bed, kissing her forehead, whispering, "You've already carried so much. Now, we carry this together." They left the hospital with hands entwined, hearts swelling, eyes toward a future even brighter than the bakery's windows. That night, Anna placed a note in Ethan's coat pocket. Your kindness made room for this life. He read it during a board meeting and excused himself just to breathe. Because love wasn't just touching her anymore, it was becoming legacy. Pregnancy came with cravings, pickles at midnight, hot chocolate with cinnamon, and peaches she'd never liked before. Anna laughed through mood swings, and Ethan adjusted every meeting around her rest. They had their first big argument over nursery colors, of all things, and it ended with a paint fight and kisses on the floor. Every moment was messier now, but more meaningful than anything money had ever given Ethan. Anna feared she'd be a bad mother, repeating patterns she never asked for. Ethan reminded her gently, you already mothered the world with your heart. Our child will be lucky to grow in it. Together, they created a space filled with books, music, love, and warm light. And in every corner, a piece of Anna's quiet strength echoed. Anna received another letter, this time from her father's lawyer. He had passed away and left behind a small property in her name, an old trailer on land she hadn't visited since childhood. She debated whether to go, unsure if forgiveness was necessary for closure. Ethan offered no advice, only his presence, and said, whatever you decide, you won't face it alone. They traveled together, finding the land overgrown, the trailer broken but strangely peaceful. Anna stepped inside, whispered goodbye, and left a note on the floor. I became more without you, but I wish you had known me now. Then she closed the door, not on pain, but on needing anything from it. The silence that followed wasn't hollow, it was healing. The bakery was closed for a day. A sign on the door, life is baking something new. Anna walked through her space, touching counters and cups like they were old friends. That night, she sat by the fireplace with Ethan, belly round, firelight dancing in their eyes. I'm terrified, she admitted. Me too, he said, but I'm not afraid with you. They stayed up past midnight, telling the baby stories it couldn't yet hear, and as the city outside slumbered, two people who once met in silence held hands through the final moments of waiting. Everything that mattered was inside that room. Labor came early, sudden and fierce, but Anna fought through it with strength she didn't know she still had. Ethan never left her side, holding her hand, whispering I'm here over and over like a vow. After hours of pain, sweat, and tears, crying filled the room, and everything changed. They named her Elise, tiny, red-faced, full of sound and spirit. She was nothing like the quiet that had defined Anna's life, but in her cries, there was joy, defiance, life that refused to be hidden. Anna held her daughter close and whispered, you're safe now, and you're seen. And Ethan cried without shame for it. This was the moment everything became complete. Years later, the bakery had expanded, and Elise ran through its aisles like it was a playground. People still whispered about the woman who once paid for a stranger's meal and ended up with a CEO, but Anna no longer needed to be noticed. She lived for quiet miracles, not loud recognition. She hired struggling mothers, paid rent for employees in crisis, and hosted free bread days on Sundays. Ethan focused on their foundation, now international, but every afternoon, he returned to have coffee with Anna at the back table. Their walls were filled with letters, photos, and moments no one could take away, and every so often, someone new would ask, are the stories true? Anna would smile, look at Ethan, and say, only the best parts. One evening, Anna stood outside the bakery as the sun set. Elise asleep in Ethan's arms. Inside, she thought, back to the moment she paid for that stranger's meal, expecting nothing, needing no one. Back then, she believed she would always be invisible, always small. But kindness had a ripple. It had reached across tables, into boardrooms, and into a man who had everything but heart. She hadn't just found love, she had changed lives, with a single, silent choice. And now, as the wind gently passed, Anna whispered to herself, this life, this family, it was never loud, but it was always mine. Behind her, Ethan opened the door and called, coffee's ready. And she smiled because everything that ever mattered was already waiting inside.